Hello, I'm Mrs. Jansen. Let's draw a bathing hippo together. First, let's start with vocabulary. Overlap is when one object covers part of another object. Let's look at these two hippos. Notice how the small hippo overlaps or covers part of the larger hippo. Texture is the way something feels or looks like it might feel. Let's look at this hippo and notice the different textures we see. There are rough and smooth textures. A hippo is an herbivore, which is an animal that eats plants. Here's more facts about hippos. They live in Africa, and they spend their days in rivers, lakes, and mud holes. Hippos can hold their breath underwater for 3 to 5 minutes. They come out of the water at dusk when it's almost dark and eat grass for 4 to 5 hours. Here's a photograph of hippos swimming at a zoo. Now it's time for us to draw our hippos. Please have a piece of paper, a pencil, and crayons ready. You'll see the screen change so we can draw together. So please place your paper portrait style. That means it should be vertical or the tall way. And the first thing we're going to do is place our hand in the center of the paper, and that's where we're going to start, in the middle. We're going to start with the hippo's nose by drawing what looks like a sideways oval. We're going to draw the top of the head with what might remind you of an upside down uppercase U. And now we're going to add the ear with that curved line that might remind you a lot of that upside down U we just drew, but at the end, we're going to go closer to where that upside down U started. And inside, let's draw a smaller one. Now I'd like the other ear to be at about the same place, so I'm going to have my finger go across the head, and that shows me where to start. It's okay if the two ears don't look exactly alike. Let's add eyes. And you can draw the eyes like you'd like to. I'm going to draw ovals with smaller ovals inside, and I'm going to shade them in. And if you'd like to, you can add eyelashes. So as we make art today, you're making choices that are best for your artwork. Now let's add the nostrils. Those are openings in the nose that the hippo breathes through, and we're going to add that curved line a lot like we used for the ear. After you draw that curved line, let's draw a smaller one inside. And now let's start a second nostril. So same type of curved line, but closer together at the bottom. And then let's draw a smaller one inside. And it's okay if the two nostrils don't look exactly the same. Now, a hippo's body is much larger than its head, So here's where we're going to start, in the middle of the head, or that upside down U shape. So I'm going to add a mark for where I'm going to start. And I know when I draw the other side, I want to start in the same place. So I'm going to bring my finger across the face and make a mark on the other side. Now I'm going to go back to that first mark I made and make a curved line that might remind you of a stretched out uppercase C. And now when I get to this side, I'm going to add a stretched out backwards C. And in between these two curved lines, there's a large opening. I'm going to connect them with a curved line that might remind you of a smile. So now I have space underneath the body, and we're going to add legs. So let's add a diagonal line that goes down and off to the right, and a diagonal line that goes down and off to the left. These are the front legs. At the bottom, I'm going to add a straight horizontal line that goes in, and then at the end of this line, a diagonal line that goes up and off to the left. And now on this side, I'm going to add that straight horizontal line, and at the end, a diagonal line that goes up and off to the right. So these are the front legs, and the front legs overlap or cover part of the back legs, so we only have to draw one side of the back legs. Let's start a little bit higher than the bottom of the foot, and we'll start with a horizontal straight line, and at the end of this line, we'll add a diagonal line that goes up off to the left. And I'd like the other back foot to start around the same place, so I'm going to use my finger, go across my paper, and then I'm going to add a straight horizontal line. At the end of this line, a diagonal line that goes up off to the right. So notice how the front legs overlap the back legs or cover part of the back legs. And now at the bottom of the legs, I'm going to add those curved lines that look like upside down U's for the toes. And when it comes to the back legs, they're overlapped, so it's okay if I don't show the same number of upside down U's or toes. So now we're finished with the hippo. So we learned that hippos spend most of their days in rivers, lakes, or in mud holes. So we'd like this hippo to look like it's bathing in the water. So first, we need to have this hippo standing on the bottom of the lake. So about the middle of the front leg, let's add a straight horizontal line. And now we're going to follow along with our finger and place our pencil on the other side of the right back leg and continue that straight horizontal line till we come to something we've already drawn, the back leg on the left side. Pick up your pencil and use your finger again and place it down about the same place on the other side. So now it actually looks like that line goes behind the hippo. So that's the bottom of the mud hole or the lake or the river. And now we're going to add the water. We're going to think about this hippo peeking up above the water. So we're going to follow our finger underneath the eyes and then add a squiggly line because water is moving. And we can follow it across the hippo's head again and add a squiggly line on this side. Now, a lot of times when you see hippos, you see birds, and birds actually help hippos because they eat the bugs that are trying to bite or land on the hippo. So let's start a bird. First, let's draw 2 straight vertical lines. And now at the bottom, let's add the feet with 3 lines. 2 are diagonal and 1 is horizontal in the center. So 2 diagonal and 1 horizontal. Now let's start our bird with a curved line like a smile. And now in between the ends of that curved line like a smile, we're going to add a curved line like a rainbow, and we're going to leave 2 open spaces. In the open space on the left, let's add a circle for the bird's head. And now add the bird's eye with a small circle and a beak, which really looks like 2 sides of a triangle. Let's add 2 diagonal lines for the tail and a curved line like a rainbow at the end of the tail. Let's add texture on the tail with 2 diagonal lines. And now we need a wing. Let's add a curved line. Now let's go back to the water. Let's imagine that the hippo is in that river, lake, or mud hole. And there are fish swimming with the hippo. So let's start fish with an oval that looks like it's sideways, that overlaps a triangle. So we only have to draw the part that we see. So we're not drawing the top of the triangle. Now we can add the eye, and then we can add the side fin with what looks like a sideways triangle with the top open. Let's add some texture in the tail. And you can add 2 small ovals for the mouth of the fish. Now it's up to you how many fish you'd like swimming with your hippo, but go ahead and you can draw more. Fish look different, so you don't have to draw everyone the same. And you don't have to draw your fish in exactly the same spot that I'm drawing mine. I know you've got great ideas, so go ahead and add the fish that you'd like swimming with your hippo. So these fish are swimming in front of the hippo, and I'm going to add more fish swimming on the side. So every time I draw the fish, I start with that sideways oval, and then I add the part of the triangle that you would see. And that open triangle for the fin. 2 tiny ovals for the mouth. So you get to decide how many fish that you'd like to draw. I've decided that I'm going to keep this amount. So when you're finished coloring or drawing the fish, now it's time to add color. What color fish would you like? You can add any colors you'd like. And fish can have more than one color, so it's up to you. So after you color the fish, you might want to outline some of your pencil lines so that they stand out more. I just chose to add a black crayon to the eye and to the fin and the texture on the tail. So a group of fish that swims together is called a school of fish. And in a school of fish, they don't all have to be the same type of fish. So they could be different sizes and shapes. They're just swimming together. So remember, you get to choose what color or colors you'd like your fish. And you can have more than one color on your fish if you'd like to. Remember, you're making choices that you believe are best for your artwork. All right, now we're going to color the hippo, and you can choose the color that you'd like for your hippo. I'm thinking I'm going to use purple or blue, but I also know that if I'm going to choose blue, I'd have to use a different color blue than I'd be using on the water. Actually, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to use purple and the first thing I'm going to do is trace the pencil lines that I drew on the head of the hippo, the ears, the nose, and the body. And notice when you trace, you use a little bit heavier pressure, not so heavy pressure that the crayon breaks, but so that it stands out more. And if the crayon breaks, that's okay, you can still use it. And that happens sometimes when we're applying heavier pressure. I'm going to outline that curved line we used to add the toes. Now, before I color the hippo, I'm going to think about what color I'd like inside the ears and inside the nostrils. And I'm going to use pink. You can use whatever color you'd like. And I'm going to color the hippo first, the body and the legs, and then I'm going to decide what color I'm going to color the nose and the toes. I'm going to trace around the eye to help keep my crayon from going into the eye. So as I add color, I just color up to the line around the eye. So notice how you can move your crayon around in different directions. Most of the time, I'm moving my crayon up and down vertically as I color the hippo, but when I'm around that curved area, I follow the curve with my crayon. And when I'm coloring around the curve of the eye, I follow the curve. I'm also going to move my crayon in that direction above the nose. So we see little white specks as we color. That shows the texture of the paper. And that's okay. We know when we looked at that hippo, it had a lot of texture. What you don't want to see are big open white spaces. So notice how I go around the fish in a curved direction with my crayon and then diagonal around the tail. And this helps me keep crayon off of the fish, the purple crayon. So I kind of outline or go around the area that I don't want to color purple in first. So see how I outline the fish? And then it allows me to color around it. And again, a lot of times it's very helpful to follow the curve if you're coloring around something that's rounded. So take your time, do your best work. It does take quite a bit of time to color large areas in. And remember, when you get to the legs, don't color in the toes yet. If something happens as you're coloring and you put a color in an area that you were hoping not to, don't worry about it. Remember, you have choices to make. So you can just keep whatever you color that color. And that can be your choice. So I'm looking at the nose now, and I think I'd like to make that pink also. Remember, you decide what color you'd like the nose to be. Some of you might have decided that you also wanted the nose to be purple. I'm going to add purple to the outside of the nostrils. This is reminding me a lot of the choice I made on the ears to add the inside pink. So I'm going to go back up to the ears and add those purple also. So now I'm going to look at the eyes of the hippo. I'm going to use black crayon and go over the center of the eye, and I'm going to trace over the outside circle. Now I'm going to add the eyelashes with the black crayon. And remember, eyelashes were a choice, so if you chose not to have eyelashes, it's okay. We're almost finished with the hippo. You can color the toes any color you'd like. I'm going to color these toes pink. I know you've got great ideas, so make the choice that you believe is the best for your artwork. Now let's look at the bird. You can color the bird any color or colors that you'd like. So I'm going to color the legs and the feet first in orange. And I'm going to color the beak orange. I'm sure some of you decided to use yellow. And then let's see, when it comes to the bird, I'm using a color called violet red. Almost looks like a raspberry color. So we do not have to make our artwork look like a bird or hippo looks in real life. We're using our own ideas. So after you add the color to the bird, you can go back to the bird and use a different color to outline the eye to make it stand out and the wing. And it's up to you. I think I'm going to outline the bird so it stands out more. And that's up to you. You don't have to outline the bird that you've drawn. Now we're ready to add the background. So the first thing we're going to think about is what that hippo is standing on. The bottom of a river, lake, or mud hole. I think I'm going to think of mud, and I'm going to use a brown crayon to go over that straight horizontal line. And then I'm going to use medium pressure and color that whole area in. Now I'm thinking about the texture of the bottom of a lake or a river or a mud hole. I think it would be really slippery, a slippery or slimy texture. So I'm going to add another color on top of the brown. I'm going to add some green. You don't have to. You can decide what color you believe works best on the bottom in your artwork. So because I know I'm going to use more than one color, as I color the first layer, the brown, it's okay if I have some empty white spaces because I know I'm going to be adding another color on top. So when you put one color on top of another, using crayon, it's called blending, and that's the name of a technique. And as you blend, it creates another color. Those two colors mix. So as I add the green on top, I can have spaces in between the green where the brown really shows. I'm saving the blue for the water. All right, and now I'm going to decide between that dark blue for the water and the light blue, and I think I'd like to use both. I'm going to start with a blue that says blue-green. And then I'm going to color with light to medium texture and pressure. So remember, it's okay if you see those small white spaces, just not really large ones. Be really careful when you go around the fish. So remember, what works well is to outline the shape with the crayon you're using to color in. And that helps you keep the blue crayon out of the fish. And if you find that you have a lot of open areas, you can always move your crayon in the opposite direction. So notice how I started across, and then sometimes I move my crayon vertically, up and down. I'm going to follow the curve again on the outside. And don't forget to add the water in between the legs of the hippo if you have an open space there. And the first thing I'm going to do is trace around the fish, and that'll help me keep the blue off the fish. And I'm going to trace around the edge of the hippo, and that helps me keep the blue off the hippo. So now that we've colored the water, I'm going to go back in. I know water is moving. I'm going to add another blue, primary color blue, on top of that squiggly line. And I'm going to add some small squiggly lines in the blue just to show the movement in the water. And I'm remembering that we saw a lot of texture on the nose of the hippopotamus, so I'm going to use that violet red pretty close to that pink just to add a few circles to show the texture. And the last thing we're going to do is decide what color the sky is going to be. I think I'd like the sky to look like a sunset. I think this hippo is peeking out, thinking it's getting closer to dark to come out and eat. So I'm going to use more than one color. I'm going to think of that sunset, and I'm going to use some orange and yellow. You get to decide what you use for the sky. Make sure it looks different than what you've used on the water. I'm using lighter pressure than I used on the legs of the bird. And if you're using the same color orange or the same pressure, you can always go back to the bird later and go over the legs with a different color that stands out more. If you feel that the legs of the bird that you're coloring are starting to blend in. And now I'm going to add the yellow on top of that orange. That blending. And I like the way that looks, so I'm going to continue that for the whole sky. Someone else might decide that they want to change the top of that to just yellow, and that's up to you. You have to decide what you believe looks best for your artwork. So when you're coloring close to black crayon, be really careful because your crayon that you're coloring with can pick up the color of a color that you come to. So especially if it's black, that's a darker color, and if you're using yellow, it can really stand out. I hope you've enjoyed drawing a bathing hippo today. And I hope you've had a lot of fun using your own ideas. I know I've had a lot of fun making art with you, and I look forward to making art with you again soon.